Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Miraculous Beings. I'm your host and self awareness coach, Shweta Shibraman, and this is a show where we discover, learn, and implement lessons from others' life journeys. Today's speaker is someone who I had a chance to interact with in my early podcasting years, someone who is warm, genuine, approachable, online and offline, and walks the talk. Our first guest is none other than Ashton Doctor, aka the Habit Coach. He's also the host of one of India's leading podcasts by the same name and the founder of Awesome 180. Thank you so much for being a part of this, Ashton. It's a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure. I'm so excited. First ever podcast of this on this platform, so super honored. Thank you.
Right. So excited. So instead of me introducing you, probably if you were to share your story in under a minute, how would you describe yourself, Ashton?
So what I do currently is that I'm a habit coach, but that's not something that I always did. I was born into an entrepreneurial family, so we had our own family business, and that's what I did for the longest time, 15 years. And this is something that started off as a passion project and then just took a life of its own. So the Habit Coach podcast is one of the things that I do, and I think we're at close to now 500 episodes on the Habit Coach podcast. We've been doing this for the last 2.5 years. And apart from that, we have our YouTube channel. I do one-on-one coaching. We have our online courses coming out and books coming out as well. So turning author first time. So it's quite interesting and exciting. The whole thing
Right.
about understanding habits and in a line, like you said, my entire fight is against this word called motivation. Because I think motivation is one of the biggest lies, and it's one of the things that creates failures, and we don't realize why we are failing is because we rely on motivation all the time. So the whole idea is how to not rely on motivation, but to rely on small gradual changes that you can make in the form of habits.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that I completely resonate with you. When people come to me for coaching sessions as well, and they say that I feel unmotivated, and that's the first thing I say, that it's not a stable thing to rely on. Discipline, routines, habits, all of them are much more reliable than that motivation, because it comes and goes. Right, you listen to a amazing TED talk and you're like charged up. 15 minutes later, half an hour later, you're back to what you were doing before. Right, and I know
Absolutely.
you also keep saying, right, in terms of having an awesome life is easy, and that it takes tiny steps to make those big transformations. What was that tiny step for you?
So for me, it wasn't a tiny step. So when
Okay.
I started, I was always brought up with this whole go hard or go home mentality, which is what I'm fighting against now, because I realized what damage it did for me back then. So when I started my change journey, it wasn't a tiny step, but it was a, push as hard as you can, struggle, fight as the first step, which did not work
Mhm.
out for me, right? Which is
Right.
what I realized was maybe something that I was doing that was wrong. And in the process, I suddenly learned about, or rather, in hindsight, I learned that the actual changes that took place came from the way that I had tweaked my lifestyle, the way that I tweaked my life in the form of habits, instead of the full energy, full gusto, go hard or go home attitude that I always had. And like I keep telling people that, for me, it was a fitness journey that triggered everything off. Um, I was getting ready for a presentation, and I was living a very, very unhealthy lifestyle back then. I was overweight. I used to sleep for 4-5 hours a night. That's it. Stressed beyond belief. And I was getting ready for a presentation, and I collapsed on the floor while getting ready. I probably hadn't slept for those 2 nights before that. And at the age of 30, 31, it's a very scary thing to happen to you. So you don't want that to take place. And as a result, I gave myself the goal, which was at that point of time I thought was the best goal I could give myself, which was get a six pack. Because you're overweight, six pack, hardest goal that you can think of, right? So that's how I started off, and that is how I tell people not to do it. Because I realized that just starting with that goal is not the way in which that you create change. You create change by actually making small changes to your life instead of something dramatic. Because when you try something dramatic, for example, sticking to the health and the fitness part, is think about the way we approach diets. A diet is something dramatic that we do, right? We try to make a big change to our lifestyle. We try to make a big change to the way that we eat, and as a result, most of us don't end up sticking to our diets. But instead, if we started making a small tweak to it, the chances of us sticking to it are much higher. And that is the whole idea of learning habits and tweaking them instead of relying on something as dramatic as how I started.
Right. Very interesting, right? So I always say this, right? Our own experiences teach us what not to do more than what you should do sometimes as well, right? And how soft, small changes will make that difference. But if I could share one observation that I've seen in people, usually when they reach a breaking point, right, or a saturation point, is when they make those transformations happen in life, right? So all these stories we hear about, hitting cancer and changing their life around, or having something like what you call rock bottom in your series, right, in your podcast series. Like when you hit that rock bottom, that's when you realize you need to make changes happen. And usually by the time you hit that rock bottom, lot of aspects of your life have spiraled out of control, right? So how would you recommend when people are almost there at that point or at that rock bottom, how should they go about implementing these small changes when so many things are out of their hands?
So it's a journey. And on the Habit Coach podcast, like you said, we have these episodes which are called Celebrating Your Rock Bottom Moments, where our guests celebrate the rock bottom moments, saying that this is what happened to me. I know maybe some of y'all are going through similar things, and this is how I got out of it. Maybe this is how you can get out of it. The problem is that we don't change till the rock bottom moment, because change is hard, because change is uncomfortable, because change is difficult. And even though we might be going through complete crap, we might be going through the hardest point in our life, we might be going through all sorts of things, but the idea of change is always worse and scarier than whatever it is that you're going through now. It is that typical thing of, this is a known devil, I don't know what the unknown devil will be like. So as a result, people don't make that first step towards change, which could have possibly not gotten them down to a rock bottom moment, but could have taken them on a different trajectory in life altogether. So that's the first thing. We're too scared of change. And the reason, and in fact, a lot of our discussions are around change, because change is the best thing that can happen to you, right? As long as you realize how to use change, change is always a positive thing, because everything is constantly changing. You are constantly changing. The world is constantly changing. And the day you stop changing is technically when you die. So why get to that point? Like, actually, when you die also, you're changing constantly. But the point is that why get to that stage? And think about it this way, when you hit that rock bottom moment, that is the time when you suddenly, that level of fear of change is outweighs what is currently happening to you. Basically, that's what that rock bottom moment is, right? So the fear no longer grips you, because now you've lost everything that you possibly can. There's no way else to go. That is why you change.
Right.
That is when, it's almost like your back is against the wall, so you throw that last final punch, hoping that you can get out of it. Many a times, what happens is that it's that aha moment or this realization that takes place more than anything else in people's lives, saying that something now has to change. Something has to give. I cannot continue life the way it is going on right now. And that is the power of that rock bottom moment. So if you're listening and you have a rock bottom moment, well, congratulations, because this is the time that's hopefully going to make you change.
Right. I love that concept of celebrating rock bottom moments, right? Usually that is a moment where you feel like, shit, everything is out of control. But if we could celebrate that and use that to, thrust us up into the right direction, that's a lovely way of looking at it. And I completely
Thank you.
agree with you, right? That change is scary, change is hard and difficult. And also somewhere I think change is loss, right? Because you have to give up all the things that you've been doing till now. It's a loss of your own current lifestyle and things like that. And I think I was just reading yesterday somewhere that research shows that humans have the status quo bias. We'd rather stick with the way things are going on as is right now, rather than make that energy and shift to make change happen. And maybe that's why we wait till that rock bottom. But interesting perspective that we use that and propel ourselves forward to make change happen, right? And talking about making change happen, and those tiny steps and the persistence towards transforming your life. One thing I think I remember you mentioning in one of our earlier conversations was that when you started off the podcast, you said somewhere around the 240 episode mark is when you started seeing a shift happen, right? And I know how much energy and effort goes into creating every single podcast episode. So 2.5 years ago, how did you find that drive in you to actually keep going till that 240 mark? And I'm sure you still have higher goals, right? So how do you keep yourself going when motivation is not that factor you're looking for?
So for me, motivation was never the thing for getting my podcasts out there, right? You set a goal for yourself, which is I want 150,000 downloads or 200,000 downloads or whatever it is as your goal, and then you work towards that goal. Now that you have a goal, you have a direction in which you want to take the podcast, right? If you suddenly realize something's not working, change the direction. If you realize something's not working, tweak it. But you don't tweak the goal, right? Because if you tweak the goal constantly, it's like you are just running after the next shiny object. So have your goals set, but then start tweaking the process. So don't get married to the process, get married to the goal. That's one way of thinking about it. The other ways to think about it is that for me, the Habit Coach podcast started off as a way of giving back, right? So I didn't want anything from it. I wasn't looking at it for money. I wasn't looking at it for fame. I wasn't looking at it for anything. It was my way of giving back, saying that the world has been so kind to me. There is so much that I've learned. I wish I had something like this when I was growing up, right? Imagine what I could have become if I knew all of this that I know now at the age of 18, at the age of 19. And that is the reason why I started the podcast. I was saying that imagine if I can share this instead of having somebody go through life, experience it. The best way to learn is through other people's experiences. Correct? So that is the way that I started thinking about the podcast. So for me, the fact that nobody was listening to it right in the beginning didn't matter. Luckily, we were blessed. We came at the right point of time when podcasting was still new. And remember, I think for the first year and a half, nobody knew what a podcast was. So every time I said Habit Coach podcast, they saying, "Acha, how do I listen to it? It's on YouTube." No, it's not on YouTube. It's an audio thing. It's not a video thing. So all of that explanation had to happen. For the longest time with IBM, we had to discuss how to tell people to start listening to our podcast. We had to create the habit of listening to a podcast. So for me, it was an interesting journey, and I like the steps to a journey instead of just being obsessed with where we're heading.
Right. I love that, right? Don't get married to the goal and tweak the process instead of tweaking that goal on your journey. I think that's a beautiful takeaway and can apply to all areas of our life where we try to make shifts happen. And the second thing that you mentioned, I think doing this podcast as a service, as a means of giving back, I think I definitely resonate with that a lot. When I started being miraculous also, it was from a point where I felt like I had to learn it the hard way, but maybe others don't have to learn it the hard way. It can be much more simpler and easier. And what I also realized is, for me, service as a medium itself helped a lot of self-transformation happen. Have you seen that across in your journey, wherein service made you grow deeper and stronger in your own self and in your own self-transformation journey?
In fact, the way to think about it is, so you learn, do, and teach. In fact, the episode that's coming out on Thursday, well, it'll be different depending on when this podcast comes out, but the episode that's coming out is with a guest who is an online coach. And his entire theory is that you cannot teach till you've gone through the process and learned. So learn, do, teach. And what that does is that when you learn something and then you actually implement it, your knowledge of that subject dramatically increases, right? So every single episode of the Habit Coach podcast, whatever habit I suggest, I've done myself. So I know that it works. The next aspect of that is teach. Why is teaching so important, and why should you never just stop at learn and do? The teaching forces you to learn more. The teaching forces you to be better. Because when you teach, people question. When people question, you're like, oh, I should have learned this. Let me go and learn that a little bit more. Right? So the teaching is the most important part of this whole process. And for me, I can also say that doing the podcast is extremely selfish, because it helped me increase my level of knowledge and learning. Right? There would be no way I would have learned the amount that I know now if it wasn't for the podcast that I created. Right? So it can be service, it can be selfish as well. Right? It is not just like, angel wings and a halo on my head. But the thing is that you learn through the process of teaching, and you learn through all of this. And you have to be open to seeing all of it as an adventure. Right? Again, we get so caught up in like, I have to be like this, I have to be like that. And, I have this image that I have to hold on to. You don't have an image. Images is like, is transient. It'll come, it'll go, it'll change. But enjoy the process. That is more important.
Right. That's beautiful, right? Learn, do, and teach, and it just solidifies your own learning. And And I agree, right? I think all of us who are in this space of coaching or in helping other people out, I mean, we are also helping ourselves more than anything else through this journey, right? It's a reinforcement every time
Absolutely.
we work with others. Right? So one thing that caught my attention also is that when you said, right, that you constantly go back and learn more and increase your own knowledge. And I've heard you say also that you always constantly seek knowledge and you call yourself as a knowledge seeker. And I've seen the way you upgrade yourself also every time, right? The way you've shown up in social media as well. I think I've seen that process. How do you go about seeking this knowledge and constantly having that mindset to learn new and to keep challenging yourself?
So, knowledge seeker was my first designation in my company when I joined. So, when I joined
Is
my
it?
family business, we were
Uh-huh.
we were a qualitative market research company, right? So, the whole idea is learning about how consumers think about products, how consumers think about their life. So, it was all about
Mm-hmm.
seeking information, knowledge. And
Right.
as your boss's son, when you join an organization, nobody knows what to do with you, correct? The father can't give you too much attention, because then that will mean that he's sending out wrong signals. He can't give you little attention
Mm,
because you're his son, correct? So obviously
right.
there is it is uncomfortable for everyone involved, right? So I remember telling people that when I joined my companies, I was the only thing that I outranked was the water cooler. Everybody
Mm,
else was more senior than me, right?
mm,
So at that point of time, what title can you give? Could you give research executive? But the research executives were more senior than me. Even when I was a manager, the title remained job seeker itself, because for me the title didn't matter, right? As I was doing the job. And
right.
knowledge seeker sounded like a very cool, very zen samurai Japanese kind of name. So we were like, cool, let's go for it. Sounds interesting. But knowledge seeking is something that is different. It's a part of my personality, which is curiosity. There are two things that I think are affecting the quality of our lives right now and the way that people are growing or not growing right now. And that is, one is curiosity, and the second is thinking.
Mm,
People aren't just curious anymore, right? They are getting and taking whatever comes to them. If you're saying, no, I'm curious, I look at all my YouTube suggestions. Yes, but it's YouTube suggestions for you. It's not your suggestions for yourself, or it's not you searching actively, right? You're looking
mm,
at what an algorithm thinks is worthy of you, instead of you actually going out and searching. So searching is something very, very critical. I remember back in the day when we had libraries and we used to go to school and college libraries, you had to go through the rack searching for something that might be interesting for you. You might ask people for references, but it wasn't the same kind of content being constantly reinforced the way that we are now, in terms of the YouTube or what we get on Instagram, etc. Stuff that we like, just we're seeing more of it. If I like fitness pages, I only get fitness pages, right? If I like
yeah.
Formula One, I only get Formula One. I don't see a vast variety. So actively learning how to seek is very important. The second important thing is thinking. We don't spend enough time thinking. We're so reactive in nature. Something does something to us, we immediately act and react. We don't spend time sitting, looking at the ceiling, thinking about our life. Because thinking has become a bad thing because of the word that we use called overthinking. So any amount of thinking now is overthinking, right? But thinking is a tool. Use it in the right way, and you'll see a dramatic shift in the way that your life exists. If you don't use it in the right way, you'll end up injuring yourself, right? If you have a hammer and if you know how to use it, you can either put the nail in the wall, or you can hit your thumb and be jumping around and screaming around. The choice is yours, correct? But learn how to
Yeah.
use the tool, and you won't necessarily have to deal with a broken finger.
Right. Beautiful analogy, right? And I love this concept of personality trait becoming a job designation. Interesting. Right. So knowledge
Thank you.
seeking as a way of, I never knew that story. That's interesting. But I think I like that those two aspects that you mentioned, right? The curiosity and the aspect to actually think and introspect and identify, where your life is headed, and actually um, I always say this, that the reason why I call the community being miraculous is that we spend so much time doing, that we don't actually just be and reflect and introspect, and that is a great way to actually learn and also measure how far you've come along, right? If you don't know that, you really don't know where to go next either. And very curious though, when in being miraculous, I always talk about how true self-awareness, not the lying to your self-awareness, but true self-awareness leads to self-transformation. Have you
Hmm.
experienced that? What do you think is the role of self-awareness in transformation?
Well, if you're not aware of yourself, you're not going to be able to transform, because then you're going to constantly be thinking about what other people think of you. See, the reason why we don't transform or change or even know where we want to be is because we're constantly being fed by other people what they think we should be doing.
Right.
We are living in the image of what we think others have of us, right? You have to be a good son, you have to now get married, you now to have 2 children, you have to now start working here. It's very important for us to realize this, because what happens is that we then start living other people's lives. We start living what they wanted to do but now are imposing on us, or what they think is best for us to do as well. What is critical for us to realize in all of this is that most of what we do, most of what we learn, or the way that society is brought up, society is always there not to see you win at life, but to make sure that you don't lose at life. It's a very, very subtle
Yep.
shift that exists, right? We have, for example, arranged marriage to make sure that at least you get married, right? Imagine if you were
Yep.
living in a world where it was survival of the fittest. How many people would not be getting married? Correct? Our
Right.
population wouldn't grow. So it is all about understanding that society is also tweaking us to make sure that we don't lose and we can survive. But surviving is no fun, right? And if you
Yep.
play by these rules, you will survive, which is why thousands and thousands of people are just surviving. How many people are
Right.
actually thriving? How many people are actually excited about their life? How many people are actually jumping out of bed? How many people are actually happy? Right? All those things happen when you don't live a common life. That means that you first have to understand who you are so that you can be uncommon. There's a lovely Dr. Seuss saying that says that in order to be number one, you have to be odd. So it is a beautiful way of appreciating that you have to be odd, you have to stand out, because ultimately, that's what life is. Otherwise, you might just be part of the herd, be everybody else.
Right. Beautiful, right? So appreciating the uncommon and using that as a starting point towards transformation. Lovely. Great. So I know, Ashton, we've been talking a lot back and forth in terms of what to actually, how did we want to shape this podcast up. But there was one thing that I did fail to mention. We will be doing a quick rapid fire round before we end this interview.
Yay!
Yes. So I have my questions ready here. Are you ready to get started? So first thing
Chalo,
that comes
bring
onto
it
your
on.
mind, no thinking. Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
I'm going to start easy, right? How do you? We'll start with simple things about how you define yourself. Okay. So rational or intuitive?
Intuitive.
Morning person or a night owl?
No, morning person.
Punctual or always running late?
Oh, very punctual. 5 minutes early.
5 minutes early. Okay. Planner or whimsical?
Planner.
Okay. Books or movies?
Books.
Gym or outdoor workouts?
Gym. Outdoor workouts are too dirty.
Okay. What does your ideal weekend look like? Reading a book at home or hitting the club?
Book at home.
Book at home. Okay.
Now book at
So
home.
now
There's no
we'll-
other club that we can go to.
Yeah, I should have asked
But otherwise,
pre-COVID era or post-COVID.
Pre-COVID, it wasn't club, but it was actually hanging out with a lot of friends. So it was that, but it wasn't the club at all.
Right. Okay. Hopefully we get to do that soon. Right. So now we'll move on to a little tougher ones. Okay. If you weren't a habit coach, what would you be?
Genuinely, honestly, a monk somewhere, which is probably still on the cards, maybe in the next 4 years. So I'm setting up a small ashram and things like that.
Oh, that's lovely. Wow, that's interesting. One thing you're most proud of, one achievement you're most proud of.
One achievement I'm most proud of, I think the podcast and the way that the whole habit coach, well, creating the habit coach industry, because till we started, there was no such thing as a habit coach.
Right.
Nice question.
Exactly. That's nice. If you had one regret, what would that be?
That I didn't know all the stuff that I know now back when I was in college. I so wish I knew all this stuff back when I was in college. My God, what a different life it would have been.
Yeah. It would have been Ashton X.0 much sooner.
Arey, into like 1 million.
Right. But better late than never. Okay, so one thing you tell your younger self.
Fail like crazy. So do things like you think that you'll never fail, and fail like mad, because the more you fail, the faster you grow.
Okay, the more you fail, the faster you grow. Okay. One habit that you'd say had the biggest influence in your life.
I think for me it would have been gratitude.
Lovely. A person you admire the most in the world.
Very difficult. No, because there are just too many blocks and categories of people to admire. So I think
Top
very,
three
very
then.
difficult. One I would put, so non-family, okay? So I'm classifying that, because otherwise it'll be mom and dad first. But one would be Tony Robbins. The second would be, I think, either a Michael Jordan. And third, who would I put third? Very difficult. I haven't thought about it. Because what I typically do is I try and take traits from different people and mix them in.
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
it's very easy to understand that everyone has good and bad, right? So understanding
Yeah.
which aspects of it you should be taking are very, very important. So I've never actually ranked people that way.
Right, interesting perspective, and yeah, I think that would be my answer too, because it's very, very hard to rank people. And but yeah, I think thank you for sharing the closest two that you could come up with. Interesting. Okay, let's move on. What are three must-haves in your routine every day?
So for me, one is gratitude, then something creative. So for example, either writing a podcast, writing my book, shooting a video, something creative. And the third one would be, I think, learning. So learning something at some point of time. So, either from an audio book or an online course or something. So that is important.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Notice exercise doesn't fit there.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. That as a fitness coach, I did not notice working out coming there at all. Any reason why?
No, I'm not a fitness coach. Thank God I'm not a fitness coach, because then I'll have to live up to that standard of being a fitness coach. No. So for me, exercise is not about getting a six-pack and being, shredded and all of that. It's fun to do that from time to time, but the idea of exercise is longevity. And longevity-based exercise is slow exercise, not necessarily everyday exercise, movement every day. Like I would probably jump on a rebounder, do 20 squats or something like that, but it's not focused exercise to the point where it kills you. So longevity-wise, that is important. If you want to live to 140, you have to think longevity. You don't have to think short-term.
Very interesting. This is one of your 5 foundational principles, right? Movement, not exercise.
Movement. Correct. Absolutely.
Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to give you another tough one. You have to rate your top 3 books that you've read.
Success Principles is the first one. Go for No is another book. And The Richest Man in Babylon, 3.
Interesting. I've not read Go for No. I'll pick that up.
Go for
Okay.
No is fantastic. It is about understanding sales, because we
Ah,
don't realize that we're all selling technically all the time, right? If you want to watch
yeah.
a TV show at home and your parents don't want to watch it, you're technically a salesman trying to say, no, mama, please, we have to watch it. So Go for No is a
Yep.
lovely book on understanding sales.
Very interesting perspective. Okay. Thank you for that. Let me ask this one question, okay? One habit, if you have to pick just one habit that makes you healthier, happier, and more productive, what would that be?
Sleep. Sleep is the most important thing. It improves your productivity dramatically. It improves your health dramatically, and there must be some reason why all of us have to sleep for designated hours, right? Maybe that science still hasn't figured it out, but there is something that sleep is doing for us. So sleep, very, very important. Quality, not
Very
quantity.
interesting. Right? I'm actually reading a book called Why We Sleep. I'll let you know if there is scientific research for it. I'll keep you posted on that.
Very nice book.
Oh, you read that? Okay. I'm hoping to get some answers there.
Why We Sleep,
Oh.
Sleep Smarter. All of these are very nice books on sleep.
Very nice. Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask this one question, okay? One habit that the habit coach is finding it difficult to build.
Phone addiction. See, I didn't need to, didn't have to wait for you to finish that question at all. Huh? That was like rapid fire ka baap answer.
Absolutely. That's, I think so many of us will raise our hands for that.
But it's happened now, huh? I've just completely uninstalled Instagram from my phone, uninstalled the social media apps from my phone, so it's much, much, much better.
Oh gosh. I'm going to come and take coaching for you from that. I'm still at about, I managed to reduce my screen time for about 3.5 hours, but that's the best I've managed to do. From
much?
I think 6 hours on the phone. From 6 hours on the phone to about 3.5 now. So
Lovely.
That's the best I've
Lovely,
managed.
lovely.
Yeah.
Uninstall things and just stop replying to people. Everyone get pissed off with you, but that's part of it.
It'll reduce the incoming flow as well then. Interesting.
Actually, another nice interesting thing I did was I uninstalled all the apps from my phone and then installed them on my computer. So it is far less likely that you're going to actually start up your computer and check WhatsApp and Telegram and all of that. So it's easier on the computer.
Yeah, increasing friction to access that. Interesting. I did that with Instagram. I hid it and buried it deep inside my app library so that it's going to take me 4 steps or 4 clicks to get there, so that I know that I'm not going to pick it up immediately.
So actually, if you do Instagram on just the browser, it's so boring that you won't spend more than 2 minutes on it.
That's a very interesting perspective. I'm going to try that. Okay.
For sure.
Right. Okay. One secret to self-transformation.
Don't think about breaking your comfort zone. Think about stretching your comfort zone.
I really like that.
To know more, read my book when it comes out, because there's a full chapter on this.
Can't wait.
But that is the secret. We normally think about it as breaking out of comfort zone, and that's just too tiring and too exhausting and too difficult to do. You learn how to stretch it instead.
Right. And it's always easier, right? You just move it by an inch every day and then you're there.
Move it by an inch, bring it back, move it by an inch, bring it back. And slowly, you suddenly realize that you're in a very different space.
Very interesting. And I can't wait for the book. Have you decided when it's going to release? Is that finalized or it's still on the cards?
I just finished my first edit this morning. So now second edit and reading out aloud will happen. And so hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
So awesome. I can't wait. That's my secret ambition as well, to be a writer. I'll take tips later.
Yay. I still have to think of a title, so that is still in the works.
I'm sure that is a tough job. You can
the
still
worst
manage
part.
to write 10,000 words.
52,000.
Pray.
So if you want a book that actually looks like a book on a shelf, it has to be 52,000. Who knew?
I didn't. Interesting. Okay, I just have one last question, Ashton. What is one thing you want the audience to take away from this session?
Motivation sucks. Fail, 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 win.
Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you so much for showing up so honestly. And I really enjoyed the conversation. And I'm sure the audience will appreciate so many insights packed in just about 30 minutes. So thank you so much for Ashton for being a part of this conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And best of luck for your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.